Anything I learn, I want to teach. The really overarching goal of all of this is to develop a group of people who glorify God and who make an impact in their generation. People who are living by the book.
Now we come to the college department in the School of Observation. This is going to test your mettle. Remember, we started out with a verse. That's a piece of cake. But then we went to a paragraph, which is a collection of verses revolving around a common theme. Now we're going to look at what we call a segment. That's a collection of paragraphs that are united by a common theme. And I want you to turn in your New Testament to the Gospel by Mark, chapters 4 and 5. I want to get an overview of two segments. Beginning at verse 1 of chapter 4 and going through verse 34, you have what we call the parable segment. Notice what we read in verse 1 of chapter 4. On another occasion, Jesus began to teach by the lake. The crowd that gathered around him was so large that he got into a boat and sat in it out on the lake, while all the people were along the shore at the water's edge. He taught them many things by parables, and in his teaching said, "Listen." So please note, we've got a teaching situation going on, and he's teaching by means of parables. In fact, if you'll turn down to verse 33 of chapter 4, you'll read, with many similar parables, Jesus spoke the word to them as much as they could understand. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. But when he was alone with his own disciples, he explained everything. So he's using the parabolic form of teaching to a public group, but he explains the parables privately to his disciples. Now, beginning at chapter 4 and verse 35 and going through chapter 5 and verse 43, we have the miracle segment. This involves a series of 4 miracles. The first of which is the miracle of the storm. The second of which is the miracle of the demoniac. The third one is the miracle of the woman with the issue of blood. And the fourth one is the raising of Jairus' daughter. Now you will notice that these are arranged climactically. If you go back and examine the parables, you will discover a key expression. The expression is, "He that has ears to hear, let him hear." So after he finishes the teaching, then he moves into the testing. You see, he was a great teacher. He gave tests, not the kind of tests we give in the seminary to see how much the student can cram into his bean and then spill out on an exam. No, when Jesus gives a test, he tests at the reality level. So we can say the first 34 verses of chapter 4 present the lectures. But then he moves into the laboratory, because you don't learn faith in lectures. You learn it in the laboratory of light. Now, we want to examine these 4 miracles, and we want to do it in a rather unique fashion. Because some of you are discovering that you are finding a great deal in your Bible study, but now you got a problem, and that is, how in the world do we organize this material? So I want to give you a little clue. This is what we call a grid chart, G-R-I-D. You remember we told you there are 4 miracles. The miracle of the stilling of the storm, the miracle of the healing of the demoniac, the healing of the woman, and the raising of Jairus' daughter. And what we're going to look at is 5 areas for comparison. What was the realm of this miracle? Who were the people involved? What means did Christ use to effect the miracle? What was the result? And finally, and most importantly, what was the component of faith? Now you see, we're covering a lot of paragraphs, a lot of material. So we've got to learn how to summarize that material in a personal way so that it will bring the information back to us or so that we can use it for purposes of communication. So let's begin with the stilling of the storm. Chapter 4, verse 35. What realm would you say that took place in?
It's the physical realm.
The physical realm. All right, good. So let's write that down. Physical realm. Out on a lake, tremendous storm comes up, and Jesus calms the storm. All right, what about the demoniac? What realm does that embrace?
Primarily spiritual, but there's also a physical dimension as well.
It's also a physical, and what else would there be?
The spiritual.
Yeah, I think we mentioned the spiritual. I think also we might say there is a mental element. Wouldn't that what most people would say? This person is mentally deranged, or maybe a psychological problem. All right, what about the woman with the issue of blood?
Physical.
Yeah, that's the physical.
But also emotional.
Also emotional. Why would you say that?
Well,
Nancy?
after trying to be healed for 12 years and encountering disappointment after disappointment.
So there's a lot of emotional baggage in connection with this as well as the physical need. All right, what about the raising of Jairus' daughter?
That'd be physical.
All right, there certainly is a physical element here, isn't there?
Also emotional for her parents.
Also an emotional. Remember the parents? Jairus, boy, so concerned that this little daughter come back to life.
And even spiritual because of the death factor.
All right, that's important to remember. That's why it is arranged climactically. You see, someone could say, well, this just happened to be a fascinating coincidence. Someone else would say, well, she just lived before the days of psychiatric work. We could solve her problem if she were living today. And as we mentioned in a previous occasion, we could say, well, she just lived before the days of a good OBGYN man. That would have solved her problem. But I'm asking, who's solving this problem today? You know, I don't find many people out at the local cemetery, you know, bringing them back. So it is arranged climactically because Jesus not only has power over the natural, he not only has power over the psychological, not only power over the physical, he has power over death. Now, let's see who the people are involved. These are the fascinating ones. Who were the people in the stilling of the storm? Who experienced that?
The disciples.
All right, the disciples. What were they? What was their business?
They're fishermen.
They're fishermen. It's very important to remember the connection between the realm of the miracle and the people involved in it. You see, we're not talking about a group of seminary professors who are scared spitless that this thing is going down. We're talking about a group of professional fishermen who lived on this lake, who saw this phenomenon. The last time I was in Palestine, I saw a tremendous storm come on the same lake in less than 10 minutes. Because you see, those prevailing winds come from the west down these valleys that act like funnels, and this is 690 feet below sea level, so you have tremendous downdrafts. And this phenomenon exists to this day. So they had experienced that all their life, but they never experienced anything like this. Who else is in this?
Jesus.
Jesus. He been out of shape?
He's asleep.
He's asleep. Isn't that fascinating? Here he is, in the middle of the storm, out like a light. All right, let's look at the demoniac. Who we got here? Some interesting people, to be sure. Who's the obvious one?
Jesus and the
All right, certainly Jesus is involved in each of these. Who else?
demoniac.
The man himself. Isn't that an interesting story of a man to whom they constantly tried to solve his problem for him, but with no success whatever. There's another group. Don't miss these people. Who are they?
The disciples.
Yeah, the disciples are there, though they are not too prominent in this.
Those tending the pigs.
Ah, the townspeople. Aren't they a fascinating group of people? Here's a group of people tending the pigs. So here's a man, a local phenomenon. Everybody knows him. He's the demoniac. Watch out for him. Put him in chains. Keep him outside of respectable society. And finally the guy gets cured. And you think everybody's like, wow, fantastic. Let's put it in Newsweek. What a story. And everybody's excited about it, but except the townspeople, particularly when they find that the demons that were cast out of the man went into the pigs, who rushed over the side of a cliff and drowned. And therefore they lost all of their economic investment. More concerned about the economics than about the physical cure. The woman with the issue of blood. Who are the people in this?
The disciples.
Yeah, very important. Vince, let's come back to them in a minute. Who else have we got?
The woman herself.
The woman herself. Certainly. How long did we say she was ill?
12 years.
12 years. So we got a long time. Serious problem. And of course,
Jesus.
we've also got Jesus. Let's come to Jairus' daughter. Who do we have here?
Jairus.
All right, first of all, we got Jairus.
The daughter,
We got the daughter,
Christ.
Christ.
The mourners.
Oh, thank you, Carol. I thought we were going to forget the professional mourner.
Peter, James, and John.
Yeah, Peter, James, and John.
The mother.
The mother and the father. Talk about. Now, isn't that fascinating? Here you got a collection of professional mourners. Jesus comes on the scene and says, she's not dead, she's just asleep. And they roar. I've often thought, first time they laughed at a funeral. I got news for you, man. She is gone.